Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Thank you so much for joining us here for Mississippi Live Weather at 5. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon on what is a mild evening that will eventually translate into a mild morning tomorrow and a mild day on Friday. It's one of the things that keeps the worst away on Friday, but unfortunately by Friday night and Saturday, ice is a possibility, and that's the reason why we have ice storm warnings issued by the National Weather Service for much of the area. That's the counties in purple that you see here. You can see ice storm warning Lee County, one of the locations there, but really as far south as Monroe, Chickasaw, Calhoun, and Yalobusha County, as well as Tallahatchie County. Added to that by the folks at the National Weather Service in Jackson, LaFleur County and Humphreys County, as well as Sharkey County, and every place pretty much back to the Mississippi River with the exception of Coahoma, Tunica, and DeSoto counties. One reason I show this graphic, first off, I think it does a great job of talking about what we are dealing with, and that is the fact that we expect to have travel disruptions. I would say they're pretty likely in this setup. And so in the Room to Room Weather Center, we've been talking all week about this, so hopefully we are prepared for those travel disruptions. But one of the big headlines I want to mention here is that this starts Friday evening. We'll go back a graphic here for a moment to show you there are other locations, obviously, we're watching. The blue here, still awaiting an upgrade from the National Weather Service at Jackson. They're awaiting more data before they go with that because warm air could save some folks from this being a crippling ice storm. And unfortunately, aloft, warm air is going to enable it for some other locations. We do have for locations such as Lamar and Marion County out in Alabama, a winter weather advisory that is a lower tier than the ice storm warning. Nonetheless, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey has issued a state of emergency for most locations out in northwest Alabama, with the exception of Pickens County. Of course, that all starts with our setup tomorrow evening, a sign that, of course, government entities as well as independent meteorologists like those of us at Mississippi Live Weather tracking this potential. 47 this evening, there are no issues. Any showers we have will be light, and temperatures 42 at midnight, 40 by 3 o'clock in the morning, and 38 as we look toward 6 a.m. tomorrow. You are going to school just fine. We're going to have no issues as far as that is concerned. Mama Justice Doppler radar, really no rainfall out there at this point outside. A couple of sprinkles there south of the Tuscaloosa area, and only really high, thin clouds largely what we do have. First front kind of moving through. The coldest air kind of lingering a ways behind us up there into Canada. We're awaiting that and the combination of a storm system back there toward Los Angeles. This is really going to get kind of turned up there and then slide toward us, bringing us that active weather, that potential for ice, and unfortunately a prolonged event on whatever this ends up being. I think, again, we're going to have the impacts starting late tomorrow night, but I think we could continue to have icing from this because just the way the overall atmosphere is shaped all the way through Sunday, and that could mean disruptions in the Monday and next week. Look at these temperatures. This is one of those factors. I have it kind of centered around our region, but I want to look all the way up in Canada. There's a ton of cold air up there. And yes, I know you're going to say Canada is always cold. Okay, to a certain extent, yes. But this is heading southward, and cold air is dense, and the depth of it is unpredictable. That is the reason why, still as of Thursday evening, I cannot tell you for sure if it's going to be sleet or freezing rain for some sections of your area. It will depend on the depth. But the impact difference between sleet with a larger depth of cold air and freezing rain with a shallower one is obviously huge. And so that's one of the many factors that we're going to be watching as we get a little bit closer as this moves toward and into the area. Kind of clear things all off here and bring it a little closer. Again, we are cool but not frigid by any stretch, and we keep things mainly dry and obviously above freezing as we go into tonight. Only a few rogue showers showing up there on the wide scale. Our storm system, part of that one out here toward Texas, still getting more organized. And so as a result, nothing but green on the map, not just for us, but all the other locations across the region. Because again, we have these winter storm warnings, ice storm warnings, and all these advisories stretching from Arizona back to the East Coast because of this storm system. All still in the green until tomorrow morning. Things start getting to go back out there toward the Texas Panhandle and out into Kansas. As we break down everything you need for the first 24 hours, big headline, we cannot miss, there are no issues for tomorrow during really the daylight period. We have seen the precipitation shift back a little bit, And hopefully that gives warm air more of a chance to take hold. Clearly, we're over 10 degrees above the freezing point. You're getting to school tomorrow morning, and you're getting back from it in good shape. You can see that temperature dropping by evening, and that is the sign of that cooler air already starting to move in. And then how cold is it for you? Coming up in 60 seconds here in the Room to Room Weather Center, we're going to be looking in more detail at everything related to this. We finally now have high resolution modeling. We'll start talking about how all that is showing, what it's showing, where it's showing it. And obviously the main preparation we need you to understand, hopefully, is that you could be stuck someplace, not everybody, but some of us, for a number of days. In 60 seconds, we're looking in more detail at that. Thank you for watching us, liking, subscribing here in the Room to Room Weather Center. We're back in 60 seconds with more Mississippi Live weather at 5. We'll also be checking in with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, and our Ethan Foster at our Game of the Week presented by Casey Lott here in a few minutes. But we'll be right back after this.
As we move into storm season, here's something most homeowners don't realize after a storm. Roof damage isn't always obvious. Wind can lift shingles, breaking the seal. Hail can bruise them below, and flashing around chimneys and pipes can loosen without you ever knowing. That damage may not show up for months. If your area has strong wind or hail, a professional inspection will help bring you clarity before small damage turns into bigger problems.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off, no tax, 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
When choosing a dentist for our family, Tupelo Smiles was the answer for us. They greet us with warm smiles right when we walk in the door, and they make us feel so welcome. We love Tupelo Smiles.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
Not everybody is going to have issues from this storm system, but many of us will. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. Thank you for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. Join the conversation on Facebook. The one we put on the screen has been in and out today. The folks, the third party we use with that, not fully, up to snuff today, but we're going to be able to check behind the scenes on that chat. And again, appreciate the good folks at Room to Room Furniture for sponsoring us here in the Room to Room Weather Center, and all of our sponsors. The best way you can support us is let our sponsors know that, hey, you see them here and you want to support them, obviously, with your dollars. That makes a big difference. Outside in Macon, as you can see, 50, you are not under any of these winter weather alerts at this time in Macon, and there's a pretty decent chance this is all rainfall for you. The transition zone is going to be locations like, say, Aberdeen and Amory, where we show 52, slightly warmer there. Can warm air keep you from a significant ice storm in Amory? It could. We're praying that's the case, but that warm air remains still very much a question. Another spot where, again, kind of on this line where, unfortunately, we think there will be some thunderstorms that mix in with this, and that means heavier precipitation amounts. We want that to all be rainfall. But in Tupelo, I think the odds, again, greater than they are in Amory, that we're going to have an icing situation with this. Again, appreciate the good folks at Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. And then those odds become greater up in Alcorn County. So again, calling out some specific spots here as we're, forecasting ahead. No issues for tonight. But if Alcorn County makes it all the way through this without a decent amount of ice, then things have gone very, very well. I just have a very difficult time foreseeing that the next location out in Batesville gets all the way through this, in Oxford as well, without having an icing situation on our hands. Be prepared to be stuck someplace for a few days before this is all said and done. Our IMPC school bus forecast tomorrow. You are going to school. Pickup temperature is 37 with 44 at the drop-off by the end of the day. I point this out, and I want to talk about, if you missed our live broadcast earlier, one thing that you probably need to know, and that's the fact that we will have school closings in the Mississippi Live Weather app. There's been a tab there for closing since the very beginning, and if you don't know how to get that app and watching us on social media, easiest way to get us, of course, is using the QR codes there on the screen. Just snap a screenshot of that, and you can download it after the fact. But there's going to be a place where we're going to have on our website submissions where people who are doing cancellations can submit those. There's some AI that works with this as well, some things to make sure it's not just, Joe Blow sending in, something, trying to cancel something they're not in charge of. We log your IP number, which means if you're trying to, put something in so you can get out of work and you're not in charge and your employer says, hey, what's going on here? We can send them that IP number, and that means bad news for you. So obviously the people who are in charge of that in different employment locations, you can submit that. It's going to be MississippiLiveWeather.com/closings/submissions. We will put that link out on social media. We're just not at that stage where anybody needs to be closing at this point here. That's part of the reason why we have not done that yet. Okay, so let's talk about our threats, our concerns here. And so looking at this again, accumulating snowfall, not really a concern. The confidence level on that has decreased. Wasn't very high before, and it continues to get lower. We're not getting accumulating snowfall. Some ice and sleet accumulations are likely out of this setup, and we do expect they could be significant, more than an inch in some locations, definitely a possibility. And then heavy rainfall, I think this is kind of the hope. We are hoping that you fall in this category here where 2-3 inches of rainfall are certainly possible out of this, especially if we get some thunderstorms. But travel impacts are likely for most of us in some form or fashion. And if it's 34 on your thermometer and rain, and you're lucky enough that's not freezing rain at the moment, don't count on it staying that way. The freezing rain, it will go back and forth quite a bit. And then sub-freezing for multiple days behind this with temperatures approaching the single digits in some spots. We prepare for threats, and now let's look deterministic on basically what our projections have here and what you can expect. So Futurecast tonight, this is kind of the no-brainer on all of this, and that's that there's no issues for tonight. We're in good shape. We are dry. We are, again, cloudy, but no real issues there. And because of that, we have not had, I think, a lot of cancellations or anything like that, though I don't see a whole lot of folks behind our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard. Gabe, you can hear me hopefully behind the scenes here as I'm about to, come on over to you. We're going to keep this fairly short because we've got weather stuff to get through here, but I do want to touch on our Mississippi Live game of the week very, very briefly. It doesn't look like a lot of folks there very far ahead of this game, right? Well, that looks like at least one thing freezing there in Calhoun County at our game of the week. We'll see if he gets back. We're not going to wait around for that shop. At the end of the show, we'll come back and we'll talk to Gabe about that. And we'll hear a little bit more about our Mississippi Live game of the week, again, brought to you by the good folks at Langston Lott and Casey Lott, and we appreciate them for partnering with us. Okay, so let's go ahead and just keep on jumping into the Futurecast. Maybe that's God's sign that we need to kind of wait to get to all that. So again, just some showers out there overnight. No wintry precipitation there. And even at our coldest temperature up here towards South Haven, we don't have any moisture there. We're getting from our destinations in good shape overnight and early tomorrow morning. 30s and low 40s out there for those temperatures to begin your Friday. As we go throughout Friday, again, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 o'clock in the morning, we are still ahead of any more meaningful precipitation. Our front that's kind of holding the conditions farther south, that's kind of the sign of, the warmest air, the most unstable air, and that's staying largely down there. Gabe, so you can hear me behind the scenes here, hopefully, Gabe. If you can hear me, it's going to be a while till I come back to you. I don't have a whole lot of time to hop back to you, so it's probably going to be 10, 15 minutes. Okay, so I'll get back to you, but it's going to be a little bit, just so you're aware. Okay, so showers, again, back to Texas, back into Oklahoma, back into Kansas. That's where it's the colder areas. That's where the wintry weather is on your Friday. You could see we're solidly ahead of that as the storm system is still organizing back to the west. Again, you get from your destinations tomorrow in good shape. High temperatures, upper 30s, lower 40s, maybe in some mid to upper 40s out there. We are hoping this is a good sign. If we can get a little bit warmer tomorrow, hopefully that means that we kind of get locked in slightly warmer before all this starts. That would make a huge difference on trying to keep conditions in better shape throughout the event. But as we look at Futurecast by Friday night here, again, you should probably be at your destination by that point in time. Things are starting to get rough out into Arkansas, out into Oklahoma, and possibly down into Louisiana as well. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock tomorrow evening, we are still ahead of this. That is a change from what we previously shown you, because looking at the latest version of Futurecast here, and this is a very positive sign, it has slowed down the onset of meaningful moisture. That's not to say there aren't a few showers ahead of this, but the more meaningful stuff starts arriving by early Saturday morning here. As you can see here, we're 3, we're 4, or 5 a.m. Saturday morning, starting to see a little bit more of that pink and green showing up on here. The pink represents a mix. That mix is a combination of rain, maybe some snowflakes, but primarily sleet and potentially freezing rain. We're going to layer temperatures on top here. We're going to walk through that here in just a moment, hour by hour. So again, showers mainly on the lighter end of the spectrum, but these are likely some freezing rain and sleet kind of mixing in here. So now we layer on those temperatures. I want to point out how we are deep frozen to colder up here for Senatobia, for South Haven, for Tunica. Any kind of waffling I'm doing here on the type of precipitation does not really apply to you. This will be frozen up here. While this shows some snowfall up in the Tennessee, and I have seen, at least on some projections, a little bit colder air slightly farther south, I would not be counting on much in the snow category. This is going to be primarily ice for you. Looking at Futurecast here, going through your Saturday, we kind of changed this over from our HRRR model now over to our strike model here. And you'll notice how it does show some dry air kind of mixing in. In this case, dry air is not a good thing. Dry air would mean there's opportunity for moisture to fall in and evaporatively cool the atmosphere. So we don't want dry air. We want enough moisture, but we want to keep it liquid. But notice our contrast here from 47 Aliceville on this particular projection to 43 Columbus, to 38 Amory, to 34 in Tupelo. Now, before you're like, Columbus, we're done, we're good, understand this is one model and cold air is sneaky. Dense cold air, again, cold air sinks, warm air rises. Dense cold air has a tendency to deceive the models, and there sometimes can be more there. And the fact you're 22 up here in South Haven and 47 in Aliceville, I do not have high confidence on where this particular projection puts the freezing line at this point here. This one is about as positive as we can get for the daytime period on Saturday, because it does have us getting potentially up here in Tupelo to the upper 30s and then 50s for Columbus. That's probably a little high, but again, I want to show what I believe is kind of a positive representation, because unfortunately, if you're out here in Cleveland or you're in Greenville, you're in Clarksdale, this is all going to be something frozen throughout Saturday. And the problem is we just have such an extended duration of moisture that the impacts do continue. Now, one other concern you see here, notice how this kind of has the little blips. You see how the kind of green is showing through. Unfortunately, we do show some instability, and that could help fuel maybe an isolated thunderstorm or two. But notice how there's a fight going on here. New Albany at 33 and 36, dropping there in the Tupelo area, 37 in Houston. So what we have is, again, a fairly hefty fetch of moisture and temperatures that are within a couple degrees of the freezing point, and then are going to try to get forced downward because of the precipitation that is falling. And by the way, this is kind of the first main round coming through. There will be more. And hopefully, again, enough warm air that this keeps it liquid for a lot of us. But before you say, wait a second, that was all rainfall from me, understand that I expect the positioning on this to change. So looking at temperatures going into your Saturday evening and Saturday night, notice how all locations, they start dropping. Again, we have a little more dry air before our next batch arrives. And then that fight's still going on here. Aliceville at 45, 39 in Macon, 37 for Louisville. Again, our strike model has been one of the warmer models here on this, but we've had consistent Greenwood, Grenada, out here, Water Valley, back up toward Boonville, consistent mix. It's a sleet, freezing rain, and rainfall mix ongoing now. By this point here, more than 12 hours for some of those locations. That's where, again, significant accumulations and everything goes with that are possible, as a lot of us are still right at or maybe just slightly above the freezing point out here east, but really kind of split 50-50 with this. Now, here's where things go a little sideways. These showers, if I widen things somewhat, there's some reds and orange showing up in these, meaning these are kind of thunder whatever they end up producing. And that could mean thunder rainfall. That could mean potentially thunder freezing rainfall as this kicks through. And again, this is one projection at one time here, but you'll notice as we go into your Sunday, the next kind of big batch arrives, and there's a lot of red showing up in here. These were probably not severe thunderstorms, but they are probably thunderstorms. And if we can keep them just on the east side of this freezing line, then we're in much, much better shape. But as you can see here, lots of pink from many of the same locations to get the entire time before that wave tries to move on out, and then colder air settles in, and we're locked in for a while. Okay. So I know for certain, I have some folks there that are going to now disagree with the next graphic I'm going to show you, which is the potential impacts, my confidence in, kind of what we're looking at on this here. And let's talk through where this comes from. So I just showed you a graphic that a second ago had it almost completely rainfall out here, Tupelo, Amory, Houston, Starkville, Eupora. And then I'm going to show you this. What gives? So we have on our hands a high impact, low confidence situation when it comes to the heaviest amounts of freezing, whatever. The heaviest amounts of frozen precipitation are going to happen pretty much right at the line where the freezing where we're below freezing at the surface. And so because of that, whereas that last graphic might have given you some hope that maybe we miss all this, and dear God, I hope that's the case for you in Tupelo and Houston. And clearly there was nothing that said that for Oxford, Water Valley, or maybe New Albany, where there was quite a bit of ice and locations north and west there. Right at that freezing line, there's going to be a lot of very, very heavy moisture and precipitation. And so that's why there end up being significant icing impacts there. So one thing that we have shown all week long, we're going to show you here, is our ice finder. It's something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live, and it goes into the confidence on whatever we're talking about, whether it's ice and then or snow or rainfall. But in this case, we're looking at ice. And so we look for where that confidence is highest and then kind of correlate back the amounts that we could see. And so you look on Ice Finder here, very high confidence that everything is ice fall out here toward Little Rock by early Saturday morning there. As this progresses eastward, we'll continue to again show that ice and whatever goes along with it through Saturday. Again, the peak locations mainly to the west and northwest of our area, but obviously right there also along the Mississippi River toward Hernando, toward Oxford. And between now and Saturday at 8 p.m., there's some, but not a massive amount. You'll know that looks better than it did before. Unfortunately, the duration of our event has extended, as you can see here, through early morning on your Sunday. Again, confidence greatest to the north and west, but we're picking up accumulations south and east of that greatest confidence. And I'll see if I can get it there. You can see through midday Sunday, again, we hit that heavier precipitation, that heavier rainfall, freezing rain, sort of ice, kind of, sleet sort of mix. And clearly this is the zone where we have it. And some spots that did not show up a minute ago when we were showing you those threats now encompassed by at least some limited amounts there. And as confidence decreases, this moves on out, the threat does as well. So if we're counting colors here, I think that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 colors in, which at the top, as you can see, shows accumulations, again, on what is a very grainy sort of projection, so it doesn't catch the absolute highest, but that's showing with fairly high confidence, some locations picking up in excess of a ½ inch of ice, which would cause some significant issues there. I will show you at 6 o'clock projections that go much, much higher than this, unfortunately, and we'll talk positioning, but that is the reason why when we go back to this graphic here, and you saw on the last one there, that icing potential, while lower confidence, and I'd say fairly low confidence out here for Columbus, for Vernon, even for Starkville and Louisville, things are looking better. Hopefully more rainfall for you. We still have ice mix on there, and hopefully your mix includes a lot more rain than ice. But that's why our peak impacts are where we have it here, because I think if Tupelo gets lucky enough, or Houston or Eupora get lucky enough, we're on the rain side, fantastic. And I would love that would be the case. But if we even for a little while end up at 32 or 31, that's enough to cause real issues. So that's why this graphic is and shows what it does show and what it is there. As we look at that 7-day forecast here, you'll notice that coverage of moisture, 80% on Saturday. We're up to 60% on Sunday. Again, extending the time period that we're impacted by this. And then we're below freezing some point on Saturday for many spots, a few points, Golden Triangle. It might take till early Sunday before we drop below freezing. And then we're really cold. And again, I will have some spots that aren't as cold as these single digits that we're showing here. But there's quite a bit of cold air behind the system, and that puts us in the deep freeze until possibly Tuesday of next week. We have seen models come up a little bit more because temperatures are slightly milder with this, so somewhat of an improvement there. But I think the big takeaways on this, and again, we will dig into all the nitty-gritty behind-the-scenes stuff coming up during our 6 o'clock broadcast, but some big takeaways that we need to, again, emphasize. The National Weather Service, that's the government, has placed most of North Mississippi under an ice storm warning that's in effect until 6 p.m. Sunday. That starts late tomorrow night and goes through. We are hopeful that on the east side and southeast side of this, that it's more rain than anything else. But I hope we can't prepare based on hope. We prepare based on what could happen. Maybe not worst case scenario, but what could happen. And then are hopeful that things are better than that. We do have winter weather advisories for Lamar and for Marion counties, Alabama, which with lesser impacts there, and still waiting on an upgrade for many spots under this winter storm watch as confidence increases, again, with most significant impacts back to the north and west, the greatest confidence for locations back that direction as well. So here is our threat analysis, and the takeaway on this should be you're not getting snow. At least not of significance, most locations that watch us here. It is sleet, it is ice, and pray to God it is rainfall if that warm layer wins. We'll look at Snow Eater again coming up during our 6 o'clock broadcast, but expect travel impacts and expect them potentially to stick around 4 days, and expect updates the remainder of this evening and then tomorrow morning from our meteorologist Maggie McCauley starting at 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m., and 7:30 a.m. I'll probably join her those 2 times like I have the last couple of days here in the Room to Room Weather Center. But I just want to make sure that y'all know that that we're going to be watching things very closely, and we will have updates Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and obviously through the weekend as warranted here. I want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, who is at our Mississippi Live Game of the Week. Well, that would be the wrong one of these. Let's pull in the right camera here for a moment. Go to Gabe's live shot. Gabe, take it away.
Yeah, Matt, we're here in Calhoun City, of course, the home of the Wildcats in Wildcat Country for our Game of the Week here on Mississippi Live Weather. What we're talking about is, of course, Calhoun City, the boys' game, taking on the Oklahoma Chieftains. And this is a battle of 1A, and it's going to be a good one for sure, as both of these teams have a winning record, and only one of them can come on top as we go into tonight. And honestly, heating up before things really cool off into the weekend. As we're tracking that forecast out, of course, it is cold right now, getting colder into the weekend. So excited to get some hoops in for our Thursday night. A big thank you to the folks at Casey Lot, at Langston and Lot for sponsoring us here on Mississippi Live Weather at our Game of the Week. We will have a full breakdown of this matchup, as well as what to expect on the court, who to look out for, and of course, those highlights coming up tonight at 10. Can't wait to bring that to you guys here on Mississippi Live Weather. But for now, live in a Wildcat Country, meteorologist Gabe Maynor with Mississippi Live Weather.
Okay, can't wait to hear everything you and Ethan have to talk about, our Ethan Foster there as well. And make sure that thing's extended out far enough that you can get him in the, oh yeah, I've seen you playing hoops. Not the only thing cold in Calhoun County. Anyway, appreciate that.
I won't get injured, I promise.
That's what I need to hear. You can't get injured. Okay, so bring it back in here. Again, 5:29, our next live broadcast coming up here at 6 p.m. And at 6 o'clock, we're going to be talking a lot more about a number of different things here in the Room to Room Weather Center. We are going to be breaking down the radial versus horizontal ice. And the only thing you need to take away from that is radial ice. That's where we look at tree branches. That's where we look at power lines. That's where we think power disruptions become possible with that. We will have a look at those amounts, the total amounts of ice possible on this. We'll also dig into all of your questions. We appreciate you all liking, subscribing, and following us here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6 o'clock. Of course, a full breakdown on all of that. We'll also hopefully get to talk to one of the folks over at IMPC, one of our sponsors here on Mississippi Live Weather, but they're going to be talking from a medical perspective, how to prepare, how to stay ahead, and how to stay safe. That's coming up during our 6 o'clock broadcast here on Mississippi Live Weather. We hope to see you then.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious when he began to discover weather. Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes, and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.